Yeah, I was just really excited about the script when I first read it. I think it's it's quite radical, actually, sort of in a stealth way. It doesn't, when you start reading it, immediately strike you as radical, but it is. It just starts at this as this sort of nice North London kind of drinks party, and ends in total chaos and anarchy and horror. And it's really, I just think it's a really cool script, and somehow in this hour and a half of screen time in this one room, really, or one floor of a house, you Sally's managed to deal with everything from sort of literally birth to death to love to passion to affairs to politics to revenge to jealousy to illness, different philosophies on medicine, Western medicine versus Eastern medicine. It's just got everything in it, and it's really, really out there in a way that I think is very original. I don't think I've ever read or seen anything quite like it. So my character is a chef who is just a chef. We think in a kind of probably in a quite cool but not necessarily famous North London restaurant, who has met and married Martha, another woman who's some years older than her and is a much more intellectual kind of academic character. I'm a more practical person, and I've just discovered that I'm pregnant with three babies. I'm having triplets. I think I already knew I was having one or two, and but the news has as the film opens, I've just been given the news that in fact we're having three. And I enter this house full of people who I'm familiar with through my wife, but not particularly comfortable with, I would say, and don't know very, very well. And I think that my journey through the story is one of kind of constantly feeling like an outsider and like the sort of, the child that everybody patronizes. But in some ways, Ginny kind of sees things in a clearer way than quite a lot of these kind of very intellectual, academic, overly thinking characters that people the film. She's quite unpretentious in a way and practical. Yeah, it's been really intense. Very. It's. I've never done a film start to finish in 12 days or 13 days, whatever it is, and we're all in it all the time. So there's no kind of respite. So there was no Sunday. Sunday was the only day we had off. There was no weekends. And it has been really tiring in a good way, but very demanding in a way that I just didn't even imagine. So you think a 2 week job is nothing, but it's like a 6 week job in 2 weeks, and so it's been pretty demanding, kind of just in terms of hours, and never not being in a state of sort of readiness to go on and do your stuff, because it's a real ensemble to the point that we're all in everything all the time. So yeah, there's nowhere to hide or escape. But I've really enjoyed it. I think we all have. We've all just adore Sally and feel very safe in her hands. And it's incredible how she's managed to make this quite theatrical piece that's, as I said, just set in real time in one floor of a house, incredibly filmic. And, she's incredibly... she's a real auteur, and she has a real filmmaker's eye. Another thing that happens on a film is that you don't often get to see other people's performances. You just do it with your scene partner, and if you're in a scene, you're generally sort of always doing something in the scene. And so you don't really... I've got to observe these incredible performances over the last 2 weeks and really just sit and watch Kristen and Tim and Patty and everybody, Cherry and Killian, just Bruno. I mean, they're all just giving these incredible performances, and it's been really. I've learned a lot and felt incredibly lucky just being able to sort of be in scenes with them, long scenes over days where you watch them develop their performance and hone their characters, and it's really been an amazing treat. Well, the film opens with me coming to tell my poor wife that we're about to have three babies, and I don't think she was necessarily. Well, she did want one, or maybe or two,
more or less,
one or two, but three. Anyway, it's defined at the moment by the fact that I am unexpectedly pregnant with three babies.
And I think for Martha, she wants Ginny, and she will do anything to keep Ginny. And if that means having a child at 60
or
three, that's what she'll do. And so it's an unlikely relationship,
yeah.
And yet there seems to be we get strains throughout of this real devotion to one another,
yeah.
And that on some level, as unlikely as it is, it seems to work. And I think this family
unit
will be a good
a huge success.
Well, I, of course, am the conduit, and Bill is one of my oldest and dearest friends, and I think we're intellectually well paired, and that's been sort of the crux of our friendship all these years. And Janet, I've always sort of marveled at. I don't think I've ever understood Janet as well, but I approved of that marriage, and without giving too much away, the betrayals that happen through those friendships are sort of a hall of mirrors of betrayals. It's sort of betrayal on top of betrayal on top of betrayal, and it becomes, I think it becomes so complicated that whenever she's with the two of them, the air is thick, and there's never ease anymore with either of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an investment has been made, and so one still shows up, and now this poor love has been pulled into this strange circle.
All these sort of fancy people that talk nonsense, as far as I'm concerned, and sort of I can't make head or tail of what they're on about, and they're all quite sort of got their heads up their asses, I think, and I go along with it because they're Martha's friends, but I guess I like to think that I make Martha come to a few of my parties from time to time where she has to sit and deal with all my weird friends.
I adore your friends. I was interested in the notion of a woman who is probably has another 6 or 8 or 10 years in academia, who has fallen in love with a significantly younger person, having to make the life-altering decision to have a family, and what that means in terms of the depth of love that someone has to feel for another person to take that on. I mean, just imagine, as a woman at 60, saying yes to a family, having never really wanted one to begin with. So it tells that was the first thing that told me that this, and for Lord knows for Ginny to say that she, for whatever reason, that she's in love with this old bird, that she too is that the love is so deep that she's willing to do this with this older woman. So there's something that means that there's something there that is so profound and so deep. So that's the first thing as an actress I came away with, was that this is for keeps. This is actually the first my film parts have been small yet pivotal. I've done several lovely films, but I haven't had this much time before with everyone from beginning to end. And so for me, honestly, it's just been a great master class at watching gifted, seasoned film veterans strut their stuff. I mean, to watch Kristen take after take after take after take. She must have done this incredibly difficult scene 50 times full out for everyone else's coverage, because there were 7 of us in this scene. And so we shot it over the course of 2 days. And every single take, whether she was, no matter how far and buried behind the camera she was giving it her all, and she drove it like a bat out of hell. Well, that huge ensemble scene, huge. I had a theater director who used to say if there was more than 4 people on stage, he would always call it the townspeople scene. So I've been calling these large ensemble scenes the townspeople scenes. And to be in that living room when they would put, when Alexei would move the camera all the way to one end of the room, so we had the whole run of the room, really did feel like theater. And all of these folks are also theater actors, so it did, you could feel something else starting to happen with the group when all the lights and the cameras and everything had been moved to the periphery, and it was our room. You know, it was really wonderful.